Peace and blessings. Today, I want to talk about how the ancients saw things. So, I want to go back to ancient Kemet, to ancient Egypt, and I want to talk about the Pert Neteru, or the Khemetic Tree of Life. Um, some might know it as the Kabbalah, as it was adopted in the Judaic mysticism systems. But first, it was actually translated in French by Jacques de Molay, who is kind of like the savior for the Freemasons. But he was a nobleman, and he had the privilege of studying in Kemet in Egypt, and he was passed down the Pert Neteru, or what they know as the Kabbalah. And it was first translated in French and later adopted by the Hebrew system of mysticism. So again, though, the origin is in ancient Kemet, and we can go back and we see that all the roots of civilization come from Kemet. And even further, we can go to Atlantis and Lemuria, but let's stay here. So we know that all different cultures and people came to ancient Kemet to get their knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of civilization, of spirituality, of architecture, of agriculture, of astronomy, astrology, mathematics, science, medicine, you name it. The roots of civilization come out of ancient Kemet or Egypt. Okay, so I want to go to how the ancients thought. I want to talk about the spiritual systems and how the ancient Kemetic philosophy is so important. The ancients saw things in relation to everything. The ancients dealt with cosmogony and cosmology, and they saw the correlation and the interdependence of all things. How everything is interdependent on everything. Okay? So let's take an example of the universal source, the cosmic womb, the darkness of space, the dark matter that allows the light to exist, all planets and all life to exist in the cosmos, in the universe. And you cannot have one without the other. You know, the yin, the yang, and how they are all interconnected, okay? Just like the sun, without the sun, there would be no life on Earth, and all of the planets in our solar system revolve around the sun. So we see here on Earth that the sun brings the element of gold, and without the sun there would be no life here on Earth, no vegetable, animal, plant, mineral kingdoms or human kingdoms here on Earth without the sun. The same way that the moon controls the water on the Earth, the ocean tides, and the women's menstrual cycle, okay, etc., and also brings the element of silver, okay? And we know that Venus brings the element of copper and the vibrational frequency, which rules love, beauty, art, creativity, music, you know. So each planet has a magnetic field and an energy that influences the Earth, and also an elemental substance that is born here on the Earth. Okay, so with and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with all the planets, but we can see with these examples the correlation and the interdependence of all things here in the universe and the cosmos. So just the same way on Earth, you know, without the bee, there would be no flower. Without the flower, there would be no bee, you know, and, you know, without vegetation and plant life and flowers and trees, there would be no oxygen and there would be no human life. In the same way they are dependent on our carbon dioxide. So everything is working together, okay? So we see that from the cosmos into Earth, we see that the universe is one big living organism. And as above, so below, we see that the Earth is one big living organism where everything is working together, okay? This is very important, okay? So now I want to talk about the Pert Neteru, or the Khemetic Tree of Life, which is the basic foundation for the spiritual systems of Kemet, okay? Of spiritual cultivation and spiritual evolution. We all have, a physical evolution. For example, the human brain doesn't fully develop until you're about 21, okay? And it further develops your decision-making abilities are not really completely developed until about 21. That's why I say you're an adult at 21, right? But your moral capacity isn't really mature until you're about 28. And this is just, kind of like physical evolution of the body, okay? So just a small example. Obviously we could talk about, puberty and developments or whatever, but we're not going to get into that. My main concern and topic for today is the spiritual system of Kemet and why it's so vital and important to get back to the root of this system. So the Pert Neteru, or the Khemetic Tree of Life, okay? And in this spiritual system, they start from 10 and go all the way down to 0, okay? So 10 represents Geb, and I wish I had the ability to put up images so I could show you this. But of course you can look it up and do your own research. So 10 represents Geb, or the earth, the lowest vibrational frequency. And it also represents the human body, okay? So there's 3 different levels. And, the first level is starting with Geb, the earth. And when we first come into life on this planet, our first level of spiritual evolution, our first consciousness level is basically a fight or flight, okay? And it's the lowest vibration, the densest vibration, but also represents Mother Earth, from which all life on Earth stems. So from 10, we go to Offset, which represents the mother principle, the supreme mother principle, and nurturing. But it also represents the mediumistic trance-like state that is needed in order to break out of the first level of spiritual evolution, which is your fight or flight. And this is where you can only really learn from outside influences, and you do so by mimicking and learning from your outside influences, okay? And you have the basic survival instincts, fight or flight, So in order to start to be able to get out of this first level, which is called the Sahu man, where basically you deal with your emotions and your lower vibration, in order to break out of this, one of the first tools that's needed is meditation, or a mediumistic trance-like state, such as words of power like mantras, etc. So again, we have Geb, all right, representing the earth, the physical body. We have Offset, the divine mother principle, the nurturer. and also representing the mediumistic trance-like state that's needed on our first level of spiritual evolution. Okay, then we go to Sebek, which is 8. All right, Sebek, which is 8, which is dealing with the left brain thinking. Okay, and in the left brain thinking, so you have the left brain, you have the right brain, but the left brain, which controls the right side actions, and the right brain controls the left side actions. But in the left brain thinking is only able to see things by definitions and separation, to see the differences between things. The same way that science works by defining things, you know. And in the great Tao, in the divine wisdom of the Tao, it is said that naming is the man-made origin of all things, or definitions are the man-made origin of all things. Because here, man is just doing his best to explain or describe that which has already been here and always will be here. You understand? But with the left brain thinking, and this is a problem in society now, because the Western thought is mainly left brain thinking, where we have to decide, we have to dissect everything in order to learn about it, and in doing that, we create the separation and don't see the correlation and the interdependence of all things. Okay, so in the left brain thinking, this is Sebek. Okay, now that was 8. So we have Geb 10, Auset or Isis 9, and then we have Sebek, which is also sometimes represented as Anubis, which is 8. All right, and then you have Het Heru as 7, and this is the first level. And 7, Het Heru, represents creativity, art, the imagination, and the right brain thinking, but also represents like music and you know, the sexual, divine sexual ritual. So in the right brain thinking, this is where we're introduced and able to see the correlation and the interdependence of all things. This is how the right brain works. The right brain works with imagination and visualization, you know, and creativity, you know, and art and music. And in ancient Kemet, music was used as a divine tool to lift you up, you know, to lift up your spiritual vibration, because the universe is all vibrations. So music was used as a divine tool to further help uplift your spirit or your soul vibration, and to lift it up to your higher self. The same way is that sexuality was viewed as a divine ritual between man and woman, the divine masculine and feminine principles, where we unite these divine and masculine, the divine feminine and masculine principles to reunite in a divine ritual. For example, the penis, the positive penetrating force, the vagina, the absorbing force, the negative absorbing force. You know, we're so used to, you know, the word negative to mean something that's in a dark light. And of course it is a dark light, but you understand what I'm saying is that we don't see the beauty in the negative. You know, we always say, oh, stay positive, you know what I mean? But there's beauty in the all. And, you know, the vagina or the yoni is also known as the cup of life. You understand? And the penis could be the magic wand in the divine ritual of making love. And see, this is what's taken away in modern society, is that, you know, sex is just known as like a sport. You know what I'm saying? And we don't understand the divine ritual of making love, you know, and purity, because this is how we birth the children. You know what I mean? So when we use our intention combined with divine love to birth children, now this is what the divine love that we're giving birth to, the future. And the children are the best part. We know this through supreme mathematics. So I don't want to go too far into that, but I want you to understand that the ancient Khemetic people understood that we are of God. You know, that the divine intelligence that creates all life, flows through and animates all life, and that is all life, is the divine indwelling intelligence that is in all life and in us. So they understood that it's our divine responsibility here on earth to resurrect our higher vibrational frequency and our higher self, and to be a reflection of God here on earth, because we truly are living out life for God. And I'll get to that in a moment when we get to 0. Okay? So you have Geb, you have Auset, you have Sebek, and you have Het Heru, 7. And this first level is the Sahu man, okay? Where you're basically just dealing with your lower vibrational frequencies, and you're dealing off of emotion, and you can only really truly learn from outside influences, okay? But once you get to 7, the Het Heru is really kind of where you first start to glimpse into seeing the correlation, the interdependence of all things. Then we go to Heru, and we know Auset, the divine mother principle, is the mother of Heru, okay? Or Heru, you know, also known as the hero. And Heru represents the courage, divine courage within self, the will, you know, the discipline, you know, and this is what's really needed in order to, you know, control your lower vibrational frequencies, okay? So once you develop this courage, you know, now we can go to Heru Kuhuti, or Heru Kuti, which is basically representing the law, the divine law, and representing justice, and representing the warrior spirit. Because once you deal with the truth, it's your responsibility to uphold the truth and stand up against all injustices, okay? Now we're at the second level, where now we're really seeing the, you know, we're starting to really see the correlation and interdependence of all things, and this is where we truly start to deal with equality. And this is the truth of Heru, and this is the courage that it takes to uphold the truth and be the sword of justice, so to speak, of Heru Kuti. You know, so now, you know, we have 6, we have 5, and now we go to 4, which is Ma'at. And Ma'at is the divine principle of justice and balance, but in a universal loving way. The love of Ma'at. The love of Ma'at is really the foundation, because the love of Ma'at is a giving love, the type of love that you give without expecting anything in return. It's the universal love for all. You understand? These are divine principles, you know, and each one is kind of like a deity or energy, you know, a universal energy and spirit that we can call upon, and also use them as divine learning principles and tools, okay? So now we're at the second level, which is Ba, the Ba man. So we have the Sahu man, now we have the Ba man, where we're really starting to see the interdependence and the correlation of all things, and really starting to deal with equality and love for the all. And we have the courage within us to stand up and to fight for justice and the truth and to stand up for the truth. Okay? So now we're going to go to the final level. All right? And now we travel to Seker, all right? Or the Shechem, all right? 3. Shechem or Seker is, the divine power of spoken word, the divine understanding, and you could not reach this level until you've gone through all the stages of spiritual evolution. And Seker also represents the Shechem or the Pharaoh. And in the divine spiritual systems of ancient Kemet, you could not be a Pharaoh until you got to this level, okay? And the Seker or the Shechem held the power of the 72 words of divine power, the mantras, okay? Then we have Tehuti, okay? Which is, now when you get to the level of Tehuti or 2, now you become a divine oracle, or you become a sage, and you have the divine communication with the cosmos, and you become a mouthpiece for Allah or God or Jah. You become a mouthpiece for the universal source. You become a sage, or what is, could be referred to as like a shaman level. You know what I mean? You're at the priest level now, And then we have Osir, 1, where you are truly God and man. It is said that God became man so that man one day could become God. And now you're living out the divine principles of God here on earth. And this is how we create heaven on earth. You understand? This is how we live out love, peace, happiness, and heaven on earth, by living in harmony with nature and living in harmony with each other and in our own communities. You know what I mean? And living out these divine spiritual principles, and we can live out love, peace, happiness, and heaven on earth, and have prosperity and peace here on earth. You understand? And this is not really too far-fetched. When you get to, the Seker and the Tehuti level, you're dealing with divine manifestation, the power of being able to control your will and manifest things in the physical realm. Tehuti was said to be the builder of all pyramids, the inventor of all writing and spoken language and astrology and mathematics and science. And because when you get to that level, you become a channel for the universal source. You get back in touch with the universal source, because this is really who we are. And then we become Asir, Asar. We become God or goddess in the flesh. Okay? And then we have 0. You go back to 0. We can't, in the physical world, we truly can't go back to 0. 0 is representing of the cosmic womb, the divine origin of all things, the dark matter, the dark abyss of space. And this also represents God, because this is where there are no definitions, there are no separation of anything, you know what I mean? But when we go into meditation, this is what we go back and get a glimpse into, you understand? And we come out with a different perspective on things, okay? So I just want to build about these things because this is so important, and you've heard me speak before about how modern day politics will never work, because in the ancient Khemetic system, you could not hold a position of government or office without having a certain spiritual evolution, okay? Without getting to Seker, or you couldn't be the Shechem. You know what I mean? So you had to go through certain initiations and learning breathing techniques and meditations and mediumistic trances and mantras you know? And this is the spiritual evolution and education system, you know? Because once you get to that level, now you can make decisions which are going to benefit the all. You have the power to make decisions that are going to benefit the all, because you see how everything is interdependent of each other and how everything correlates. We're coexisting. You understand? So this is the only way, you know. In a government, in a good government, you would have spiritual leaders so they can make qualified decisions which benefit the all. Okay? And modern day world, we don't have this. You know, we have politics and policies where they separate the church from the state. You understand? And I'm not throwing a shot at anybody. You know what? With Christianity, they teach you that, you know, you're a born sinner and things of that nature. You know, they're automatically setting you up for failure and not telling you about the God within you, and that you have the divine power to resurrect the God within you. And this is truly what Yehoshua was teaching, the true essence of what Yahshua, aka Jesus Christo, or Jesus Christ, the principle of Christ, or Krishna, is teaching, the Christ consciousness, the divine consciousness of God within you, and resurrecting these same principles, because it's just different stories told in different ways. There's only one universal truth that is spread throughout the world and is spoken in different languages and taught in different ways. And the main problem with religion is that the clergymen mess up religion, okay, by instilling fear into the masses, you know, and using it as a power of control over the people, you know, when really this is divine spiritual evolution that we're supposed to be dealing with. So again, this modern day system of politics and policing is not going to work, because when we resurrect the higher self over the lower self, we resurrect the principle of mind over matter. I said before, govern means to control, mente means the mind. Government is mind control. But when we resurrect mind over matter, we govern ourselves with divine principles of spirituality and morality, you know, and we can live out love, peace, happiness, and heaven on earth. These things are not far-fetched, you know. And when we get in tune to this consciousness, now we can utilize the higher vibrational frequencies, and with the technologies, use technologies that are in harmony with nature. And we can build a resource-based economy, okay, that I was speaking about before. Again, money is a man-made idea and concept where we place a valuation upon natural resources. There is no lack of natural resources. Why can't we live out heaven on earth? Because we need to balance the left and the right brain thinking. The left brain thinking is important. It is. But if it's not balanced with the right brain thinking, then it's no good. Because this is what the scientists start to think, that they're so smart, and now they're trying to be God in their own right, or above God, but they're doing things that are going against nature and going against God and universal principles in the name of science. Okay? So I don't want to get too crazy. I only have a half hour at a time, which I'm coming up on now. But I hope that I was able to spark some jewels for the mind. Peace and blessings.